When South Africa cried out, TransAfrica answered. When Haiti cried out, TransAfrica answered. When Nigeria cried out, TransAfrica answered. And today, as Africans in Sudan and African descendants in Latin America cry out, TransAfrica is answering. For 30 years, TransAfrica has been a potent voice, speaking out for African people on the continent and throughout the diaspora. TransAfrica was born out of the need to take action against injustice. The year was 1976, when the brutal apartheid regime of South Africa was at the zenith of its power. Political leaders, scholars, and activists responded to an urgent need to create a foreign policy organization to confront the official neglect of African and Caribbean issues. TransAfrica was born out of that need. The organization's first challenge was clear: take on the powers that be and take down apartheid. Despite economic sanctions, apartheid South Africa was thriving. In 1981, TransAfrica exposed a U.S. government scheme to circumvent sanctions and undermine a growing divestiture movement. TransAfrica President Randall Robinson, U.S. Congressman Walter Fauntleroy, and civil rights activist Mary Frances Berry refused to leave the South African embassy and were arrested. By morning, a movement was born. First, they came by the dozens, then by the hundreds, until thousands of people from all over the world came to be counted and arrested. TransAfrica was successful in mobilizing role models, celebrities, and opinion makers to the cause. Harry Belafonte, Stevie Wonder, and Tony Randall, Coretta Scott King, Rosa Parks, and Jesse Jackson, Arthur Ashe, and more than 24 members of Congress were arrested protesting apartheid. The weight of world opinion proved to be too much. Apartheid began to crumble. A Republican Congress overrode President Ronald Reagan's veto and passed the Apartheid Act of 1986. TransAfrica's work continued. In Angola, Namibia, and Mozambique, TransAfrica helped galvanize world opinion against terror and tyranny. In Nigeria, TransAfrica spoke up for democracy. In Haiti, TransAfrica pushed for the restoration of the first democratically elected president and the just treatment of refugees fleeing the brutal military regime. TransAfrica's leadership is arrested again to stop genocide in Darfur. Today, the TransAfrica Forum is creating the next generation of activists in African and Caribbean affairs through its youth leadership programs. The Arthur Ashe Jr. Foreign Policy Library is the largest repository of its kind, with thousands of books dedicated to the history and political development of the African world. TransAfrica continues to speak out against the crippling African debt and the spread of U.S. militarism on the African continent. And in South America, TransAfrica stands alongside African descendants in their fight for justice and equality. For 3 decades, TransAfrica has been answering the call for human rights across Africa and throughout the diaspora. Now, TransAfrica is calling on you. Answer the call.